Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. Hope Taylor, can you tell me who you are and a little bit about yourself so I know?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a wedding and senior portrait photographer in Charleston. And I also am an educator. So I teach workshops, have online courses, all that jazz. And I also, I started really young. I started when I was 17. So that's a big piece of my story, as I've been full-time for 7 years right out of high school.
Yeah? You jumped right out of the gate and jumped right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right out of high school?
Yes.
Well, you're not kidding around.
I'm not messing around. But it was crazy, but all good things.
Take a second before we dive in too much and tell me a little bit about Charleston, because I've never been and it's on my list of cities in the United States to visit.
Oh my gosh, you have to visit. It's amazing. So I actually moved here back in August, so I'm still relatively new.
Oh.
But I lived here a couple years growing up. My dad was military, so we were stationed here. And we always wanted to come back. So the entire family actually dropped everything and moved back. But it's beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous, and the food is incredible. That's like one of the things that we love so much.
The
is you can't go
food.
wrong. It's amazing. And everybody's just so nice. The weather's phenomenal. There's so much to do. You can't go wrong with coming to visit.
Well, one of my all-time favorite bands is from Charleston, South Carolina.
What band?
Do you know of Need to Breathe?
I don't.
Well, you might live.
Do I need to change that?
You might live within a couple miles of the fellas. I don't know how many of them still live around there. I think a couple of them do, but you should check out Need to Breathe.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I have a local band I love called Midnight City, and they play at all the like local bars and stuff here and there. They're mostly cover band right now. They have a few like originals, but they're awesome. But I'll have to look up Need to Breathe.
Check them out. They're fantastic.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's get serious. And I don't
Okay, I'm ready.
and I don't really mean that, but let's talk about something serious though for a second. I would like to know what things have been like for you the last month or so.
Yeah, things have been good. Things have been crazy. I think so in Charleston, we were a little bit behind everybody else, so it didn't really like sink in here until I think a few weeks after some other areas. And so my family and I, we were watching the news and seeing it all unfold. And then once it finally hit us, we actually didn't have a mandatory stay-at-home order until yesterday.
That just happened?
It just happened. We've had like I don't know what they called it, but a stay-at-home suggestion, if you will, and lots of places closed, but they didn't make it mandatory until yesterday. I've been staying at home for, a month now, but they didn't make it mandatory.
That sounds so Southern, a stay-at-home suggestion.
I know, it really was.
Y'all might just want to stay home for a bit.
Yeah, just stay home. It was crazy. I mean, a lot of places closed, but they didn't make it mandatory until yesterday. So it's been crazy. I feel like my day-to-day schedule doesn't feel that much different yet because I work from home, obviously, on a regular basis anyways. But
right.
The weight of it has just kind of been sinking in over time. It's just crazy. Nobody knows how to navigate it. Obviously, I mean, there's just so many different pieces to it.
What are you doing for your business? I mean, you have a photography business, and then you have a strong online presence from a social media standpoint too. What are you doing for those companies?
Yeah. So my biggest thing that I have been doing and I feel strongly about is that I think a lot of people are struggling with what to share right now, right? Like none of us know how to address it. None of us are professionals in knowing how to handle a pandemic. I think a lot of people want to show up for their audiences online, but they're just struggling with the right way to do that without coming across as insensitive or like disregarding the problem. They also don't know how to address the problem. So I've just been trying to show up and address it and just say like, hey, I know things are hard right now, but this is what I'm up to, and just kind of trying to be a light and share some positivity, instead of trying to be like someone who provides a solution, because obviously there just isn't one. So on the social media front, that's kind of been my approach. On a back end business front, I have been doing some passive income things, some course sale type of things. I have lots of weddings obviously canceling. I had a big
Yeah.
event cancel at the beginning of April. Or sorry, the beginning of March. And so I've been doing some course sales and things like that, to just support my community and hopefully make up some of that lost income. But I think the biggest thing I've been doing is just trying to maintain a level of normalcy from a schedule standpoint, like just getting up, working at the same time each day, and trying to have some structure. But in terms of showing up for my audience, just trying to be kind of a source of light and positivity that doesn't necessarily, like if somebody clicks on my page, I don't want them to like roll their eyes and be like, oh my gosh, she's talking about it again, you know?
Right. There is that piece. Like I've wondered about that. Like at what point do people get sick of hearing about the virus and the predicament that we're in, you know, and even with what I'm doing here, I'm like, at what point is this played out? So I'd kind of like to ask you, yeah, I get the piece where you're showing up and you're just trying to relate to your audience and you're, you know, provide positivity and stuff. But at what point does that need to change into something that's a little bit more, pragmatic or proactive, or even, for lack of a better word, aggressive regarding something that's going to generate revenue?
Right.
Whether it's for your photography or your online presence. And for anybody else, you know, because we're all in the same position here.
Right. Yeah. So I think for me, I have been trying to not necessarily give resources and feel like I need to just produce content that's helpful when I see other people doing it so well. So instead of being the one that's producing the content to be helpful and kind of like attack the problem aggressively, I've been sharing resources that I found helpful from other places. So I'm definitely still trying to provide resources, but I don't want to add to the noise is basically what I kind of my thought process is. There's, 50 billion incredible influencers and business owners and companies that are providing amazing resources. I would rather promote the resources that are existing, that are helpful to me, than try to create my own and kind of drown out the other people. And I'm blessed in the fact that I am not going to struggle financially through this because of how my business is set up from a passive income standpoint. So I would rather point people towards a business who might struggle financially. And so I've been trying to point people towards those resources, but without feeling like I need to strain myself and research and pretend I'm a professional on this and find out all of these legal things when I don't necessarily know them. And I'm not necessarily somebody who would be a great fit for that. But there are people that are creating content that's phenomenal, and I'd rather push that.
What are your big tips for photographers in particular right now?
Yeah, my biggest tip that I've been telling all of my students and all of the people that ask is that I'm a huge believer in personal marketing across the board. I always have been, always will be.
Personal marketing.
Yep. Just the concept of letting your followers and your people and your clients really get to know you for who you are, and incorporating that into your brand, incorporating that into the way that you share. And I think that right now, one of our only options is to create content related to who we are, take pictures of ourselves working from home, and kind of connect with our audiences on a more personal level. Show up on Instagram stories, that type of thing. I think that implementing that into your business and allowing your followers and your people to just connect with you on a super personal level, especially through something like this, where people are kind of looking for light, they're looking for joy, they're looking for something to make them laugh. I think that it's a great way to start implementing that. So I've been, my mom she came over yesterday. We took some cute pictures of me like working in my office, and I shared those. So I think that that's a great way to be creating content and proactively building your brand and business, so that when a bride gets engaged, even if it's in the middle of a pandemic, she reaches out to book you because she just feels like you guys connect, and you're her person because she's connected with you in such a personal way online. Personal
marketing. Okay. I like that. And that gives a phrase to what, I've seen so much of in the last few years in particular. And I don't know why I've never even thought of it that way or heard personal marketing, because you're really marketing yourself. Like you are the brand, so to speak, right? When you do that, and this is something I've wondered for a while, I think, but I'm going to try to put it into words myself. When you do that and you want to be authentic, right? You don't want to just put out the fluff and stuff, so to speak. But how do you discern if you really want to show the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak, to some degree? How do you discern when it's not appropriate or not helpful or something that's going to hit the cutting room floor?
Yeah, I love this question. So I actually heard somebody say this at Creative at Heart in Nashville a few years, or not in Nashville, somewhere a few years ago. And I can't remember who said it, but I loved it because it kind of put into words what I believe is the strategy, which is to share about things when they're a healed scar, not an open wound. So if you're like walking through a really hard season of life and maybe your followers are going to relate to that, the middle of it is probably not the best time to share about it, right? Because our perspective is not going to be positive or helpful to be like, hey, woke up, today sucked, it still sucks, have a good one. Like that's not helpful to anybody, right? But when we've come out on the other side of whatever that hard thing is, we might have a positive, uplifting, helpful perspective on it to share. And I think too, when it comes to marketing personally, people get really nervous because there's like, they think that pieces of themselves that their followers aren't going to like, and they're going to like turn people away.
Right.
And I argue that that's a good thing, right? Like if a bride clicks on, I'm a very light, bright, bold, bubbly photographer. So if somebody who is looking for like a dark and airy and moody photographer who like super photojournalistic and doesn't interact with their clients, if they click on my Instagram and think that I'm a good fit for them, I'm doing something very wrong because I would drive them insane. They would hate me. And so I want to be sure that I'm turning away those people because those people aren't going to be my people, you know?
Right.
And yeah, so that's kind of my thought process there is that there's so much value in being transparent and connecting with your followers, but you want to be sure that you're doing it from a healthy place that's actually beneficial to people.
So, I mean, it's still curated, right? I mean, you still have a plan, so to speak, right? It's not, I mean, even who was I talking? Oh, my mom and I were having an argument the other day, a friendly argument. Because she was like, oh, these reality shows. She's a sucker for reality shows, and I can't stand them. I think I used to like them, but certainly not anymore. And she loves them, and she says, oh, it's all real. And my brother and I were like, it is not.
It is not that.
Well, not at all. I mean, it's scripted, and they shoot things over like 4, 5, 6, 10 times to get the right. And so... But it also isn't the same as a 100% scripted, written, fabricated piece of fiction either, right? So is it kind of that you kind of find that sweet spot or that balance? Because you want people to see who you are, right? But there are things, and you said the open wound, that really sticks with me for whatever reason. Because, that's not, I mean, there are things that aren't going to be helpful to anybody.
Right.
So you plan that out to some degree. What for you are things going to be like on the other side of this that are different though? Like how are things going to change for you and your businesses and your strategy moving forward on the other side of this? Maybe it's a month, maybe it's 3 months, who knows? But how is that going to be different?
Right. I don't know, honestly, that much is going to change from a strategy standpoint. I think that the biggest thing that's going to change for me is personally, I've just found a new level of routine in all of this. I think that I've learned how to value routine more than ever because I've been like just driving myself crazy. Like the first couple of weeks I was driving myself crazy with lack of routine. And I saw somebody on Twitter say that it just feels like the time between Christmas and New Year's and there's like no rules and you don't know what day it is. Like everybody's just like sleeping in and nobody's
big
working.
Limbo time. Right.
Like nobody knows. And so that's kind of how I was treating it. Like I was sleeping until my body woke up. I wasn't like setting alarms. I wasn't doing routines because I was like, there's no rules in quarantine. But I've definitely started to value routine more. So the last week I've been, getting up, working out before I get to work, that type of thing. Just routine has kind of taken a new value in my life, or level of value.
But you're making that happen. Like you're intentional about that, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And I think that's been major for me. I think too, I just see the industry coming together in a way that it hasn't before. I see a lot of people like lifting each other up and providing resources and coming together, and people that maybe were kind of not on a high horse, but like didn't want to have to ask for help are having to ask for help. And people who didn't want to have to share things are now sharing resources because maybe they need the income or they just see so much struggle. I think it's kind of bringing everybody together in a way that's never happened before. And I think that it's going to help us all value community and just connection on a whole new level, on like a worldwide level, like completely separate from business. I just think we're all going to come out of this and really value our friendships, our relationships, our interaction with like human life, like our appreciation for small business. I think it's just the world's going to look a little bit different from that perspective when it's all over.
I think your name really suits you.
Thank you.
I'm guessing you have heard that 1,000 times before.
I've heard it a couple times. Yes.
All right. Well, you embody your name. That's really, really cool to see. And I appreciate your time. Can you close with telling people where they can find you and look you up?
Yes, absolutely. So my Instagram is Hope Taylor Photography. That's kind of where I show up the most regularly. And then my blog is hopetaylorblog.com. That's where all of my educational resources live. I have tons of like free downloads. I have a weekly YouTube series that I share for small business owners. So lots of free education and resources there for anybody who's struggling right now or just working to build a business at all.
Hope, I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Hey guys, thanks for watching this conversation presented by White House Custom Color on YouTube. Be sure to check out our other content and click that subscribe button right there. Right. Right there. It's there somewhere.